if anybody woke up in the last couple of days of January, you may very well have heard the news about the U.S. immigration agents descending upon multiple 7-Eleven stores on January 3rd. This, for a lot of us, just seemed to be signaling exactly what we'd been expecting, which is going to be increased enforcement. And it seems they made a big splash about it in hitting such a big name company across. This was very much part of a sting operation. So with that in mind, let's keep it, let's just note that this is definitely what we've dubbed as the year of enforcement. I believe a lot of people have, and that's why we have this fabulous webinar prepared. So let's go through the players. Who enforces I-9 compliance? The main player that we will deal with and handle on the immigration side is obviously Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE. They're also the police arm, so to speak, of immigration. Department of Labor, Department of Justice, your DOJ Office of Special Counsel, Department of State also can kind of get involved. Those are very loose connections. States and municipalities, while they don't necessarily enforce I-9 compliance, they definitely go back to this I-9 requirement and will refer to ICE on many occasions. So the statistics that we have, they have left out fiscal year 2016, 17, and 18. Obviously, when we get those numbers, we'll provide those. But just to kind of give you an idea of a trend of where we saw the highest enforcement was in looking at this chart, fiscal year 2013. You're looking at numbers of fines and forfeitures there. Basically, understand that these are not cheap, and these are very much a way that the government will fine employers. So that's why they utilize them. That's that enforcement. There, in terms of statistics, you can see the graph that we've provided. There are a lot of results that can come from these I-9 audits. You'll look and see that one of the graphs there has total E-Verify cases and cases that on the right side where that were not found work authorized. There is definitely a compliance issue that the government now seems to be wanting to address with more force. So we'll move on. The component or the segment under ICE that we will be dealing with when we're talking about I-9 compliance is Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. So basically, under the prior administration, we saw the number of audits in those previous slides that nationwide was at a peak of 3,000. Then we saw them dip in 2016. We have by record numbers of nearly half. So 2018, the signaling of 7-Eleven, and what we're hearing from representatives also of ICE. We personally attended with the Dallas Bar Association a presentation with some ICE agents who were explaining that definitely they've gotten the green light to signal with enforcement and move forward. So we've heard it straight from the horse's mouth.
Okay, so what to look for in this coming year? As many of you might know, the HSI currently has around 6,000 enforcement officers and 6,000 special agencies. What they have reported is that they are working on hiring an additional 10,000 mandated officers and agents. Mandated means they have already been ordered to recruit and get in place 10,000 more officers so they can expand their enforcement activity. And goes back to what Michelle was referring to, that we heard from these agents, attorneys from the Department of Immigration at the end of last year, that they are definitely going to be doing more investigations, site visits, and other enforcement activities this year. So we definitely will see those numbers going up. Employers should look at several essential compliance points. I think we emphasize this not enough, but we try to always tell employers that they need to make sure that the I-9 data is fully compliant with the regulations and that it is correct. You don't know how many employers that we talk to or we visit with regularly, and you go and take a look at the I-9s because it seems to be such a simple form, how many mistakes in one form can be made and how neglected the forms are. We know that many employers prepare procedures for I-9 compliance or process, but they never update them or enforce them. So it's like not having them. If using E-Verify, employer must have a set of procedures that are unique to the E-Verify system. Just keep in mind that not because you might have an I-9 procedure or compliance plan in place, that will be enough to make sure you're in compliance when it comes to E-Verify. The E-Verify is a totally different system. It's based on the I-9, but has very little to do with the actual I-9 process. Document abuse, it is important to know what patterns are appearing in the data document review collection. One of the things the Department of Immigration or the agents that investigate I-9 compliance look at is whether employers are abusing their right to request documentation, to document or to verify identification and employment. That's the purpose of requesting documentation when the I-9 is being completed, to verify ID, identification, and employment authorization. But in many instances, employers take the liberty to request for specific documents instead of referring to the list of documents that are provided with the I-9 form. And as if you have ever seen an I-9 form, you had seen that there are a list of 3 types of documents, list A, B, and C. And depending as to how the form is completed, employees are supposed to provide documentation. But employers are not supposed to be requesting specific documents. That would be document abuse. Trained I-9 and E-Verified staff. I-9 rules for completing the form can change at a moment's notice. And we saw that last year when we started the year with an I-9 form that was effective in January. Mm-hmm. And then by July, they had changed the form again and updated all the processes in the employer manual, yes. I-9 manual. So if you're not aware and on top of what is going on with I-9s, you might miss the updates and you might continue to use an outdated form that eventually might result in a violation of a 9 compliance.
I'm going to add a plug here. If you subscribe to our newsletter, you would definitely have been aware of the changes. So as an employer, please make sure to get on our newsletter list. We can alert you of that.
Yes, we're good at that. The Trump administration has eliminated the Obama administration's priority enforcement program. What that means? Well, ICE, and we go back to the announcements they made last year, at the end of the last year, ICE has informed employers that once an I-9 notice of inspection is issued, and attorney Monica Narvaez will tell you a little bit about once you get the notice and you're dealing with the government, what you need to be doing. Once you receive this notice, it can rule out an immigration raid on the premises, even if absent of criminal investigation. So once you get an I-9 audit notice, you're not off the hook. They can still come and rate your place or do an announced visit, and that's not going to keep you out of their investigation.